Hi guys, welcome to or back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about my journey through my disabilities, how they were diagnosed, the journey through the diagnoses, how they affect me daily, and how I cope with them, and how I am who I am today. Before I start this video, I'd like you to please leave a like on my video, comment something nice below, check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel. Let's get started. I'm 24 years old and as you all know, or if you're new you may not know, my name is Jay. Originally I was not born as Jay, I was born as Jodie. I was born to a fantastic mother who, despite all my challenges, never gave up on me and made me feel as if I was like any other person in the family without disabilities. She made me believe that I can do anything I want to do no matter what my barriers are. She kept me strong throughout all the hospital appointments when I was a child, and without her I wouldn't be who I am today. So let's get into my diagnosis and all that jazz, you know, all that process and things like that. So I was born in 1996, and when I was about 3-4 months old, my family started to notice I wasn't aware when people walked into a room. I wouldn't look at anyone, I was always sleeping, and some of you may be thinking, well, newborns always sleep. You know, they always sleep a ton. But this was abnormal, always sleeping. So they took me to a doctor and it was picked up I had fluid on the brain. When I was 5 months old, I had surgery to treat that. I had a VP shunt, which is like a giant tube that's put into your brain and feeds down into your stomach to help the fluid drain off your brain and drain out of your body, basically. Without that tube, without that straw-like thing, I really wouldn't be here today. And if I was, I'd be very severely disabled and wouldn't be able to live an independent life. So great credit to the doctors at Great Ormond Street for saving my life in theory. In 2000, when I was about 4 years old, I was registered blind and I was taught Braille. I've been doing Braille now for 20 years. And my mum, bless her, she even learnt it with me to help me with the process and try and help me to cope with my disability, because nowadays I cope with it pretty well, I think, but back then you wasn't even allowed to use the word blind around me. You had to say sight impaired. The things you put on windows, you know, blinds, they were called window covers. You just couldn't use the word until I was about 13, and then I accepted it. And I was like, well, this ain't gonna change, so may as well embrace it instead of hide from it. When I was in junior school, I went to a mainstream school and I was bullied horribly. I went to school every day, and from about 8 years old until I dropped out and moved to another school in year 6, I was bullied constantly because I was different. And I think most of the time when children bully you, it's just because they don't understand and don't want to ask the questions. But I'd much rather they asked me the questions than treat me like I was some sort of alien, really. But because of that bullying, I didn't use all the support that was given to me. I had a support teacher, and I had to use her because otherwise, well, I just wouldn't have got very far in school at all. I used Braille because I had no other choice. But because I had slightly more vision then than I do now, I could get away with not using my cane. Now, for those of you that don't know, a cane is a white stick with a ball on the end, and that helps you not walk into things. It awares you of obstacles. So that's junior school. I hit secondary school and my sight deteriorated even more, so I had to use my cane all the time. I wasn't happy about it, but I had to use it, and I still got bullied because I used it. Throughout secondary school, I started getting problems with my joints. I was constantly complaining about my back hurting and my knees and my hips and my muscles in general, and my joints in general. And we went to the doctor several times. My mum and my gran took me to the doctor so many times, and they just kept saying, "Oh, you're growing." I have been diagnosed since age 18 or 19 with a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. When I was younger, I had loads of genetic testing, and it came back I was a average healthy girl. No genetic problems whatsoever. Now, after doing my research and speaking to several consultants after my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome diagnosis, I found out there's 13 types of the condition, and I'm in the one category that doesn't have a specific gene that you can test. So it was impossible for them to find out I had it. They had to wait till I'd stopped growing to realise, well, actually, no, this girl doesn't just have growing pains because she stopped growing, she's a young woman now, and do physical examinations and then realise, well, actually, no, she meets a load of the criteria on the Baton scale. And that's a scale, it's a tool that orthopedic surgeons and doctors use to figure out how hypermobile you are. There's 9 tests, and I score, it depends on the day I'm having, but I score between 4 and 5 of them. But because some of the tests on the Baton scale, you have to score 5 or above to be classed as hypermobile or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But because of the things I could do in my past, like in the past I could hyperextend my legs and I could hyperextend my arms and things like that. That's why I meet the criteria for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's not a condition you can get without inheriting it. So I hope you don't all leave this video and think, well, I'm slightly hypermobile, maybe I've got EDS. You don't. Unless a doctor diagnoses it, please don't diagnose yourself. Because there's several people in the UK, 1 in 5 I think it is, have hypermobility, but are unsymptomatic. Sorry, I got stuck with the word. But some people don't have symptoms, or most people don't have symptoms. It's only time to be concerned if you start showing symptoms of the condition, or but it wouldn't always be EDS. It could be any matter of things. So my point is, don't self-diagnose. So I started having problems in 2009. So I would have been about 13. And I didn't get diagnosed until I was 18 or 19. So it took about 6-7 years for me to be diagnosed. And in that time I had countless appointments because of that condition. You know, because of all the joint problems I was having. And I look back on it now and I think all the problems I had in school with raising my hand and having a thumb that bends back quite far and just in general being in pain all the time in my joints and my spine and stuff like that, you look back on it and think, well, actually, a lot of that had to do with my EDS, but it just wasn't picked up. So that's my EDS story. Now, I have other conditions, but to be honest, there's not much of a story between them. It's just most of my conditions I was born with, and a lot of them mix in with one another. So I can't really explain a lot about them. I take a lot of medication every day. I take pain relief, I take anti-epileptics, I take antidepressants, vitamins. I take so many different medications just to help me function, really. But like I said in the beginning, when I was younger, I couldn't cope with my sight loss and things like that. But as you get older, you grow to accept the fact that, well, this is my life. It's not going to get better. So, you know, I can't change it, so what's the point in being upset about it? Don't get me wrong, I get down days and I feel like, oh, what's the point? Why is this happening to me? But I also believe that the strongest people get the hardest battles. You know, the mentally strong people, the people that can handle it, are dealt the hardest battles because they can handle it. So, yeah, it does get me down, but at the end of the day, just because it gets me down doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting, because I've come this far, why not keep going? Now, how it affects me daily. Well, my sight, sight loss is very difficult in the fact that, it's one of your senses. A lot of people rely on sight, and when you don't have it, you think, well, all those that take it for granted really shouldn't, because you never know if you're always going to have it. When you get older, a lot of people when they're older lose their sight or start having sight problems. Never take anything for granted, because you never know what's around the corner. But I've learned to manage without my sight. I've only got 5% now. I never had a lot to start with, but I've only got 5% now in my left eye, and I'm completely blind in my right eye. But now I make use of all the support available to me. Never think that you're above support or that be embarrassed that you need support, because without all the support I had, I don't think I'd be coping as well as I do. And I don't think I'd even be able to live on my own like I do now. I've had support to cook. I've learned how to use washing machines. I had a child and I had support to look after her. You know, the support I've had in life is the thing that's got me to where I am, and I'm really grateful for all the support I have had. There's also, you know, tons of technology out there to help you. I've used Braille. I have a kettle that's called a hot cup kettle by Breville, and it will pour the water for me so that I don't burn myself. When I used to make up my daughter's bottles, I had a bottle maker which would make the water to the right temperature and to the right level if you set it right. So I wouldn't burn myself by doing it with a pan. There's loads of things out there. There's even a gadget that you stick over the side of a cup and it will tell you when to stop pouring water if you don't have a kettle like mine. You know, there's guide dogs. If you need support, do your research and find what's out there. Or just ask someone. Just let someone know you're struggling. Let them help you. There's no shame in it. My Ehlers-Danlos loss does affect me every day. I'm constantly in pain. I dislocate every morning. Well, actually, there's a difference between dislocations and subluxes. A subluxation is where your joint only partially comes out. Only partially comes out. And I get those more than dislocations. I think I only get about 3 dislocations a year. But I sublux every morning and it's really painful. But the problem is, because I'm so used to it, I don't go to hospital for them. I just do it myself. Because with EDS, your ligaments and whatever are so lax and so fragile and whatever, your joints can just slip in and out. It's not really that big a deal in a way, because you don't really need to do a lot to put them back in. You know, I could sublux several times a day and not even know it's happened because it will just slip in and out that quick. I won't lie and say chronic illness is easy, because it's not. It's very tough. And as I was saying before with support, if you have it around you, or if you can get it, use it, because it's very difficult without it. I'm very grateful to my family, my mum, the support workers I've had for getting me this far. But looking after your mental health, especially with chronic illness, is very important. Because if you're in pain all the time, it brings your mental health down tremendously. You know, I get really down days, and a lot of the time it's because I'm in pain. And I'm just like, oh, why me? As I said before. But you've got to keep going. I'm not going to lie and say I'm happy all the time, because that's not what you want to hear and it's not what you need to hear. And who is happy all the time? You know, we all get down days from time to time. But make sure you support your mental health as well as your physical health, because mental health is equally as important. I have mental health issues and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've had counselling, I've had therapy, things like that. I've had treatments, medications. I'm not ashamed to admit that, because, you know, I needed it. And if I hadn't have had it, well, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now, because I'd be stuck in my bedroom and just sleeping all the time or crying because I was too depressed to do anything. I've had days like that. I've had long periods like that. And just because you feel low, it doesn't mean ignore it and think, oh yeah, it'll pass. Because if you feel low for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, I'm sorry to say, but you might have depression. And it's fine. We all feel low at times. But don't let it sink to a point where you feel trapped and you can't get free. That's when it's a big problem. If you feel like you're low and you just don't have no motivation and you don't want to do anything, speak to your doctor. Speak to CAMS, speak to a therapist, however old you are. I don't know which one you'd need, but just speak to someone. There's no shame in it. I think that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if there was a few speech issues. I got a bit tongue-tied, but that's just me. I'll see you in my next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it helped some of you. And just be kind to one another. Look after yourself. Remember you're worth it. Remember you're number one and you're the most important, because if you're not happy and healthy, how are you supposed to be there for someone else? You know, don't let disability or mental health, don't let any of that rule your life. Because I used to. I got really depressed when I started having joint problems because I used to be really athletic. You know, I used to get medals all the time. I used to play for Hertfordshire Junior Games when I was in secondary school. And then all of a sudden that was ripped away from me all of a sudden, and I couldn't do it. And I got really down. I even get down now if I see my medals and I'm just like, well, what's my life now? I can just about walk to the shop. And I was climbing walls at 11. You know, I was climbing rock walls and stuff like that. I was running 100 meters. And I do get down over it. It does get you down. But if you're down and you're constantly down, do something about it. Don't let life drag you down for long. Remember you're worth it. Remember there's always a purpose. We were put on this world for a reason. We were put on this earth for a reason. You know, you have a purpose. Whether you know it or not yet, you still have a purpose. You're worth it. And you're beautiful inside and out. And someone always loves you. Even when you feel alone, just remember, you are loved. You are wanted. And you do deserve the best. And you do deserve happiness. I have been Jay. You are my Jaybirds. And I will see you in the next one.